After spending over 40 hours in the new 2.0 update and now 100% in Phantom Liberty, I can say Cyberpunk 2077 has been redeemed. I've been every side mission in the new DLC and completed all the new achievements, and I can tell you Phantom Liberty not only ends one of the most infamous games in gaming history on a high note, it gives players the experience they were promised since the beginning. A special thanks to all the join members, veteran members on YouTube, and the Twitch subs that help support my channel. If you wish to support, join in, one-time donation with super thanks, or a Twitch sub will go a long way. Phantom Liberty has players being contacted by a random netrunner named Songbird. She promises V a cure for the biochip if he heads to Dogtown. If you thought Night City is bad, Dogtown is way worse. The entire section is basically its own city within Night City, under the rule of former military colonel named Hansen, who governs with an iron fist, but things get even worse somehow. Turns out Songbird is the personal netrunner for the President of the new United States of America, Rosalind Myers. Her plane has been hijacked and is sent on a crash course into Dogtown. V must save her and discover that the promised cure has a lot more loopholes than expected. The narrative plays out like an emotional roller coaster of difficult decision making that will leave some dead and others emotionally scarred for life. The main Dugarognis is Solomon Reed, played by Idris Elba, who more or less steals the show. He's dedicated to the United States as one of their sleeper agents, but is completely conflicted of what he has to do. He's loyal to the job and his duty, but is in deep denial, to the point that you actually feel sorry for the guy. He's a man who's running on empty with nothing but blind loyalty to fuel his batteries, but the last thing that he cares about hangs in the balance, so he has to play his part. The rest of the cast helps flesh out this spy adventure, such as Alex, another spy, but unlike Reed, is actively looking for more out of life. She's just as dangerous, but shows her vulnerability in lighthearted encounters, and is nothing but professional during active missions. Alex really highlights the duality of doing horrible things for the job and trying to live with it. But unlike Reed, who carries these burdens with him always, acting as he's responsible for every action during a mission, whether they're his responsibility or not, Alex knows carrying that weight will eventually break her, instead finding clarity in small things and hope for a future outside of being a spy. Then you have Hansen, the big bad of the story. He's everything you can think of when you want a military villain. He's brutal, but smart. He only cares about his town, and anyone who doesn't fall in line is a threat. He is loyal to his soldiers and wants nothing but loyalty from them, showcasing personalized training sessions with them. He's not that layered, but direct, and shows his lethality very well. For him, it's not enough to kill someone, but you have to play the long game to ensure greater success. He may not be the most complicated villain, but when he appears, you know this guy means business. As for Songbird, she's perhaps the most relatable character. She has been living V's nightmare for a long time. She's captured, as her name implies, and always looking for freedom. Learning about her plight and deciding not only her fate but the fate of hundreds is not an easy decision. You'll grow to understand her and the lengths she'll go for her own freedom, as V has done the same throughout the core adventure. How many have died for V's second chance at life after all, and she's more than willing to do the same for her own chance for freedom. The game provides an array of options that are mostly related to just direct consequences, meaning they're more focused on the specific mission you're on. Don't expect overlapping choices to affect other gameplay elements, but instead isolate to the mission that you're on, with occasional references to those missions in future tasks. That being said, if you complete the main story and did a lot of the optional content in the core game, you'll be greeted with cameos and other references from those missions, giving you more reason to finish the core game before you start Phantom Liberty. But you can start Phantom Liberty from the start when you click new game and immediately go to the final part of the game. The story of Phantom Liberty follows that same fantastic CD Projekt Red formula. Don't expect things to be in black and white and the ending to just be an ending. There's no good or bad ending, just an ending with some winners or some losers. Questions you'll likely never get an answer to, and choices you wish could have gone better. The story does end with one of 4 endings, with 2 of the endings adding a brand new option for V in the game's core finale. But most importantly, it opens the narrative up for different directions in which the sequel, which has been confirmed to be in development, could lead to. Cyberpunk 2077's gameplay has been completely overhauled with the 2.0 update. Everything has been better balanced, so players cannot just spam quick hacks to bypass much of the game. However, precision rifles are still broken and can be used as a shotgun and a sniper rifle, so if you want a cheap weapon, there you go. The new augmentation system changes the equipment system. You still have cosmetic options to change V's look, but a large part of the game's statistics is based on your chrome. Different Ripper Doctors have a variety of options that take up energy. Based on the core attributes, you can change armor, weight carrying capacity, add a double jump, or make yourself a lot quieter when you stealth, just to name a few. With some references to Cyberpunk Edgerunners added to the mix, which I highly recommend you watch. It's a fantastic anime on Netflix. The only issue I had with the gameplay is that stealth will often lock you out of certain options unless you invest heavily into technical or body traits. Be prepared to be locked off from certain options if you want to sneak through certain missions, with one mission with the Voodoo Boys in the DLC forcing you into a locked cell despite the fact that I could double jump to avoid this trap door. I should have been able to grab this ledge, but I couldn't because it was a scripted event. It's a shame, really, because as someone who played Deus Ex Human Revolution and Deus Ex Mankind Divided, those games provided equal opportunities for both stealth and combat regardless of the situation, and you didn't really need to invest heavily into those options in order for you to be effective. They did make it easier, but they were not necessary. Here, the game encourages stealth through the narrative discussions that you'll have through side missions and primary missions, but the gameplay says otherwise. I can't tell you how many times that I was focusing on stealth only for the game to say you need this amount of technical skill in order to unlock this door, and there was no other option for you to bypass this unless you had that option available to you. So I think that CD Projekt Red still has a lot to learn about these types of games. Maybe they should play the Deus Ex games. I highly recommend you do play those games if you liked Cyberpunk, but it's clear that they still have a lot to learn with these systems. The first-person combat is effective, with players able to slot in 3 weapons that use a variety of stamina from shoot-in to melee combat. Everything feels punchy and you have a decent selection of weapons. However, I felt like the assault rifle was the worst choice in any situation. I mean, why would you pick this thing up when precision rifles do a lot more damage and are a lot more effective at range, and submachine guns are the best automatics? So I don't really see how assault rifles really play into this. I got a lot of assault rifles and none of them were as good as the submachine guns or the precision rifles, and they even didn't come in the sweet spot of being in the middle. Some weapons can be modded, with the exception usually being unique weapons painted with a gold highlight banner, but you can upgrade and change your weapons to your heart's content. I did wish there were more non-lethal options. For some reason, I would punch someone only for the game to say that I killed them, and placing enemies into canisters can only be done if you kill them. There's no taser or tranquilizer, which again was in Deus Ex Mankind Divided and Human Revolution, which would have been incredible non-lethal long-range options. If there were options available, I didn't find a single one during my 20 hours of playing the 2.0 update, so it would have been a great option, especially again, the game encourages you to play stealthy for additional bonuses. Compared to the original game's combat system, here the system is just dramatically better, offering more options, better balance, and an overall combat system that just complements the world. Along with a handful of new boss fights, they are usually limited to just the optional missions, which I found a little disappointing, but the gigs and side missions are nevertheless entertaining for you to engage in those boss fights. The biggest addition is, of course, the vehicle combat. However, I played through the entire game with the 2.0 update. Phantom Liberty and the core game did all the side missions and all the main core content, and I never found the reason to use it. Like, for the most part, I would just get out of my car and just shoot everyone dead. It was a lot more effective for me than to engage into the vehicle combat. It's definitely fun, and there are cars that are equipped with Gatling guns and missile launchers, but I really didn't find a point. It's almost like it was an afterthought, like, hey, this is very cool, let's put it into the game, but there are really any missions that take advantage of these types of systems. At least maybe I'm playing it wrong, but it just felt cumbersome at most. It's fun, just not really that important. Now, despite all the improvements that Cyberpunk 2077 has seen over the years, it's still one of the most infamous games in gaming history. Most people will stop pre-ordering games just for this experience, such as my friend Kiri. The launch was such a disaster that last generation versions of the game were nearly unplayable due to graphical and technical issues. Again, a modern system when this game first came out was next to impossible due to scalpers. Since then, the developers have put in the work to resolve the game's many problems, and it's what we should have gotten back all those years before. I played the game when it came out, and it is a dramatic improvement. The developers do encourage you to play the game from start to finish with the brand new update in place to witness all the improvements, but also because the game struggles with older files. When I started a brand new file, the game worked perfectly. There were occasional issues that you would find in any open world game, but nothing major. It was surprisingly smooth, but after years of work, you want to expect this. However, when I loaded my original playthrough when I first started playing the game, all the way back when the game came out, there were a lot of issues that started to mount up. Frame rate issues, crashing, and many sound problems. The most constant problem was being locked out of using my phone or a fast travel system unless I reloaded the game. My guess is that the game is struggling to implement the 2.0 changes on top of the original game. Everything from the augmentation system changes to the armor system, and the overall rebalancing is the only thing I can think of that caused these issues. When I opened up my file and looked at all my cosmetics, most of them were all gone and just replaced with generic options available. I do give the developers credit for attempting to completely overhaul save files from the original version of Cyberpunk to the modern version, but the issues present were staggering. You're probably going to be better off starting a new game and doing everything all over again like I did, but if you want to skip ahead, as I stated earlier in the review, you can do that from the beginning of the game, but you'll lose out on a lot of customization options and your own personal choices within the game's narrative. Regardless, yeah, starting a new file is definitely the way to go. You start an older file and just prepare for a lot of problems. Not the same level of problems when the game first came out, but enough that you will get annoyed. I got so annoyed when I had to reload the game again because the sound from the club downstairs when I was meeting a certain character, I can't show it right now because it would be heavy spoilers, but I met a certain character someone will be familiar with, and the sounds from the club were basically just it made it impossible for me to hear what the guy was saying. Thank God I had subtitles on. Phantom Liberty is an exceptional expansion that builds on the core narrative and slots into the overall story very well. It easily adds over 30 hours of new content to the game, almost like a missing piece of the puzzle you never knew existed. The new cast, narrative, and finale creates a whirlpool of decisions that will have you lamenting if you could have done things differently or whether your choices were worth the consequences. It's a thrilling journey full of grit, blood, and sacrifice that highlights all the best elements of Cyberpunk 2077 when it was supposed to launch like this. While we won't get another expansion, which is disappointing, and the multiplayer has been cut because they wanted to focus on improving all the issues with the core game, Phantom Liberty is a sound send-off and the redemption Cyberpunk 2077 desperately needed. It's an exceptional game, a fantastic journey, and I can't recommend it enough. If you were burned when you first played the game when it came out, I highly recommend you give it a second chance and see the experience that we should have gotten on day one.
Doesn't sound like you miss it much.
See you in the morning, V.